Okay, we are closing final minutes. So last presentation of the day, Hayley, please, the floor is yours. Hayley has been on the early stages of the Bali Regenerative Farm Center, and will tell you guys a little bit of her stories, or not stories, her story, and the challenges that she's having. She is on a different stage from what Urban Compost is. She is on an earlier stage, and our advisor will be called up on the stage to provide advice once again. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Hayley.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. It's just such an honor to be here. Tongi's speech earlier just excites me of where this is going. I want to invite you just for a second. It's been a very long sort of morning. It's hot. I want you to stand up just quickly, have a quick stretch, just get the blood to your brain. It's been a bit of a awesome. There we go. All right. Does the clicker work? Okay. All right. So I'm going to be talking. You can sit down now. Sorry. Free will. I'm going to be talking about the Bali Regenerative Farm Centre. It's a mission to spread regenerative farm methods throughout Bali and beyond. It's jumping on that food, the food importance, the future of food, the fact that we need to move our systems to a regenerative agriculture and look at self-sufficiency a little bit more. There we go. All right, I'm going to tell a very quick story just so you know a little bit about me. Back in the 80s, if you were alive then, back in the 80s, I lived on Christmas Island, which is south of Java. Some of you may know it. It's the Australian Christmas Island. There's also a US one. And I remember that time living inside the jungle by myself often because it was a free, before crazy development. The parents would off be having a great time somewhere and the kids would off be playing hide and seek among the buttress roots of the rainforest. That's where I developed this amazing intimate connection with nature. Much like your kids here at Green School, I had a very raw version of that without any kind of supervision. But that is where I got that intimate connection and absolutely adored nature. In between the time and the journey, I lived a very normal life back in Australia, the normal life that anyone would think. But then it was in 2017, that top photo in the middle there was at Cool Farm, just around the corner here. I did my first permaculture design course. And that's what reignited that passion, that connection to nature. I soon followed. 2 months later, I went to Malaysia and did a syntropic agroforestry course. There was something here igniting inside me, realizing, which a lot of you are here for today, realizing that there is such a power. We've strayed away from how we used to be. And there's something we need to do about it. Through that journey, I discovered soil, the importance, the foundation, the very thing we stand on. It's the key to the change of all of this. Yep. And so I'm just going to, I know a lot of you know this, just click again. I just want to highlight the benefits of just if we regenerate the soil, not only will it draw down the carbon, which we've all been talking about, but it will rebalance the temperatures. It improves and restores water supplies. We're all very aware that water is a problem here in Bali. Well, some people may not. There is the water aquifers are disappearing because we're not bringing them back into the soil. It increases the soil fertility to feed the community, providing food security, which is starting to be a very trending word, which is a bit scary, and increasing nutrients. So the food revitalizes, improves your health. Not only will it improve the nutrients, but of course the flavor is there. Who remembers eating a tomato from a neighbor's garden as a kid and how amazing that tasted compared to getting a tomato now from a supermarket like Capito or something? Yep. Okay, so I believe that regenerating the soil is the most impactful change we can action for climate change, human health, and food security. So that's why I'm here. The problem is a lack of awareness and understanding that this is such a simple solution. We've just strayed a little bit. So the answer is to educate and inspire, to spread the message, education. Yep. So bring in the Bali Regenerative Farm Centre. That is the angels coming down into the rainforest. That's the rainforest that's 200 meters from the farm. So we're in the heart of Bali. I like to call Bali a chicken. We are where the heart would be. And this is just some of the veggie gardens here with Puckwe. We're watering the garden, completely very biodiverse. Looks very messy, not like a normal monocrop garden that you would see. Yeah. So why us? We want to be a living example of regenerative agricultural methods, all of permaculture, all of those things, but we will be specializing in syntropic agroforestry. One of the things I found astounding, but also makes sense once you realize, is Bali was a rainforest. The rice fields are a new creation from humans. So I believe that we need to bring back a little bit more of this agroforestry, which is, if you're not aware of syntropic agroforestry, it's a way of creating your own rainforest that produces food from day 30 to year 25, a whole biodiversity. And by the end of that, your soil has been built like the Amazon rainforest, as opposed to what happens in normal agriculture. Oh, we're right next to an ancient rainforest, so that provides educational comparisons, as well as, of course, revenue opportunities with tours and things. The plan is to have a purpose-built, world-class education centre that combines technology with education to spread the knowledge. So having online and offline educational courses and spreading that education as quick as possible, because as we know, we have one generation to fix this, and the best thing is to spread that message. Yep. So our strategy, so we're going to lead by example with syntropic agroforestry and other regenerative methods, educate and spread the methods of regenerative agriculture, collaborate and highlight other amazing regenerative farms through the network. So I'm not really talking much about the Regenerative Indonesia network today. That's a whole nother thing, but I believe there is already so many things like Asukara Way, Imasitam, Jiwa Gardens that need to be highlighted so you can become aware. And so creating this collaboration with the whole of what's happening helps highlight it and spread the message further. And then, of course, create an interactive map that helps us measure our success. How can we say, is Bali 10% regenerative? Is it 20%? That kind of thing. Yep. So our offerings and revenue model are, of course, produce, fruit, veggies, seeds, honey, compost, all of those things. Shop, a cafe and accommodation, tours and day trips, and workshops and online courses. So who we want to inspire? We want to inspire the international market, both online and offline. It would be amazing to be able to reach out and find where you can do a tour of a regenerative garden online. I know the biggest little farm, I would love to do an online tour of their farm because I just can't get there yet. So having online tours as well as the online education, all of a sudden you're not limited to this room, but you have hundreds on the other end as well. And then that's recorded and spread it. That's a new word. So Bali Expats. And then with that international model, helping like buy one, give one, that kind of concept, helping that education that comes through from teachers from around the world, we can translate that and spread that either free or very, very minimal cost so that we can get farmers in Bali and Indonesia that information as well. So the current team is huge. It's 2 of us. There's myself, and then Made. I'm blessed. This amazing local farmer. He's just obsessed and loves, and he's so proud of his biodiverse farm that we're building. So I feel very blessed that he is coming to this. And also just recently, we have a mentor, Eric Netanya. He's an impact venture builder, and he's also very excited to sort of help guide along the way. So this is the land. I just want to highlight 2 things on this screen. That little driveway up there in the corner, that's the entrance to the rainforest, the driveway to the rainforest. And this is the main land. I'm going to talk about this section now. Yep. So stage 1 is the small land, which we've already started developing. We already did a crowdfunding, so we're already getting some elements there. Yep. So this is the small land. Hopefully you can sort of see it. But we're already having some tours, very minimal tours, but because we haven't really been telling anyone yet. Workshop and nursery. So the nursery, we purposely built it so we can have people sit and learn workshops and things. Compost area. We've recently got honeybees. We've got a flow beehive that we're slowly building. So that's another exciting educational opportunity. Of course, and the 24 regenerative garden beds. We have a medicinal plant garden that's being built here. And eventually this will be a regenerative chicken egg process where we rotate the chickens in a certain way. And the thing that's being built in the next 2 months is the bathroom, which is kind of a key. If you've driven up an hour and a half, probably might need that. So this is stage 1, is to increase the tours and workshops on the land that we already have. Yep. So stage 2 is to build the larger land. establish the syntropic agroforestry farm, really start to plan that out. We've already had conversations with some restaurants that are interested in working with us so that we can start to plan ahead for what we're growing. Build two-story farm centre. So the level one, we have a shop and a cafe. If you've ever been up there is a slow little growing expat community. So I already see that just having a little local shop and cafe will be very key, as well as there's lots of other little lodges and resorts around. So there's already a little market there, but I think people coming up to do day trips, to half day, rainforest walk and farm tour, those kind of things. Oops. And then level two, the purpose-built education centre. So I see something simple but also amazing where we can have at Jiwa Garden, if you were there at Permaculture, they actually had an opportunity where you could plug into Zoom and listen to a translator, so we could do bilingual languages at the same time. And I think that would be just powerful to have teachers come from around the world and have locals sitting there and being able to understand what's going on. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at. Yep. So this is the vision. This is the high-tech design of the building. Here, it's just a walk away. People come down that road all the time after they've been walking around the rainforest to come down and have a refreshing drink and then start to learn a little bit there and learn more. I think it's very
the in both Bali and Indonesia. And second is the international market, and that's agricultural students, Bali expats, Bali nature and agro tourists. Yeah. And then the second piece is, as we talked about, again, where's the revenue come from your model? And this was my note, so correct me if I'm wrong, is about 70%. So we're talking about the lion's share would come in stage one from workshops and courses. And then following it would be the produce, compost, cafe, shop, from the beginning. Is that right? Just to set the course that people are thinking about, you know, what's the first stage and second stage of the scale?
I mean, the percentage I'm not 100% sure of right now, but I do see that the scalability of the courses that we bring in with online as well has the opportunity to bring a higher revenue. And then the produce, it will bring some revenue, but your only ability is what you have in the farm, whereas the courses I feel could be scaled.
I think you have so much more valuable to say. I'm a techie, so I goodness.
That was the intention, by the way, right? The intention was to bring techies to sort of
see it from a different angle.
Yes.
Yes, I've had a feedback. There's one thing I'm kind of interested in is okay, so the goal is mostly let's talk about the local population, okay, where you have the potentially the highest impact, the quickest impact, because you can have people who come for courses and want to learn about this. I mean, keeping in mind syntropic agroforestry is a method that comes from Brazil and that is applied specifically for the tropics. So you have people who come for these courses, which is a very kind of niche market of people wanting to build this type of agroforestry systems in the tropics, right? So it's not an extremely large population. What you do have a very large population of here is farmers who are already producing crops around you, right? And one thing that we've learned from working with farmers is actually in most cases, it is not so much about lack of education, it's lack of market access, right? So it's not because you share with a farmer how to combine, cacao with pineapple and mangosteen and turmeric that all of a sudden he's going to want to do that and make more money. He's going to be like, oh, that's a great idea. I can plant a turmeric as well. Yeah, they know that. The only thing is they grow 3 crops because they have cooperatives for those 3 crops, and they know that those 3 crops will be taken off their hands. And they don't have the time to find a buyer for the mangosteen, the turmeric, the cacao, etc. So the market access is, I think, a very important thing. And I think that's an interesting thing to think about for your model. So for example, what if you were to provide courses like education to the farmers, provide them also access to seeds, seedlings, etc., and then help them sell that produce, get a margin from that, and that is what funds your operations here. I think that's an extremely impactful, right off the bat, actionable way of getting funding, and you're helping, actually the farmers with the thing that they need the most, right? They can come and learn once again, but if they're not able to sell their produce, they're going to stop and revert back to their 3 crops. This is what we've seen. In Indonesia, rice farmers, sorry, this is the most of, 70% of rice farmers who transition to organic go back to conventional within the first 2 years. 70%. And the reason for that is at the beginning, like, oh, organic sounds like a great idea. And they don't know who to sell their organic rice to. So they end up selling it at the same market as all the conventional guys. So it's the same price. Market, most of their customers, local people don't really know or care if it's organic or not. So they buy at the same price, except that growing organic rice is more expensive in the first couple of years, more inputs, etc. So they just revert back. I think it's an applicable thing for transitioning to regenerative agroforestry or syntropic agroforestry, which needs to be borne in mind, which is the market access is the key. Yeah.
Raphael. know Bali Co-op is starting to feel a bit of that. I've had conversations in that. That is even in syntropic agroforestry, that is a conversation that's always being had, is the market. How do we get to the market? So it's definitely something I want to look at. And if anyone, has conversation information on how we can do. Okay, great. So yeah, that's a really great point. Thank you.
Any other advice from you guys?
Hearing all this, my mind starts like, oh, we have to build a platform and connect it to you, connection with farmers. So it is really something. That's why I also say I'm more of a tech guy. Like it is so like hands on the ground, and I've seen everything, all those documentaries, Kids Around, Biggest Little Farm, and I always really get inspired by it. So your story is really, really inspiring. But I really would like to see something like you've faced this already. You know the numbers. You know 7% turns back, and it was one of the questions that I had prepared. Like, how do you get these local farmers involved and keep them involved? It's inspiring to put a place together where you can educate, but it's the people here, especially start with Bali and local, really keep them and engage and transform them into your also your vision on how agriculture needs to be. Um, that's something that you really keep in mind, and it's super interesting, especially that you're here to see how can you nail that next to your beautiful place you're creating. But you really have to nail that, otherwise you're an example for basically nothing because people don't do it.
100%. Yes, Tongi inspires me, and especially what he's done with Asankara Way. One of the things that sort of came up, we were at Permaculture 2 months ago, I can't remember now, was this need for this platform, a directory. So I went and built one, just a very basic level. It's called Regenerative Indonesia Network, and it's starting to bring this connection piece of all these amazing organizations to the surface. It also has a map, so you can start to see, so people can go onto the map and start to see, okay, these are the organizations. But what and the other thing in regards to the connecting the piece of the market for the farmers is every month we're doing a call called Regenerative Agriculture in Bali. You'll see that in the network. We're doing one this Friday, and we started the conversation last month about building a co-op or a collective so that we can start to create guidelines around the regenerative market, but also create a collective, because one of the things that I've seen work in the syntropic agroforestry is creating a co-op or a collective where you could have one facility where all the farms go to and process their produce, and it starts to create a market. So there could be an opportunity here of, there's already a factory up there called Talasi. Some people might know Talasi. They do cacao and coffee and arak. And so there is a factory there. So I have thought of things like maybe we could talk to them and they could start to process some of the produce that we have. And then it gets sold, and then that can actually be spread a little bit further as well. So it's something on my mind in regards to how do we fix this problem. And I'm definitely open to how do we create this, make this easy for everyone, and create that access, because that is a bottleneck.
Yeah, and one thing that pops in my mind as well is that I've heard, like, especially because rice is the one crop that the biggest crop we eat, and obviously in Bali that's a lot of crops of rice. But there you have also the cultural or political system with Subox. So if you have one farmer who wants to do it, but one on top of the water flow is using pesticides, then it's like it also involves a lot of politics, right? To get them all together, and yeah, everyone needs to agree, and especially the one on the top needs to agree on not using pesticides or fertilizers. Is that something that you have in mind, or how do you?
Definitely. There's a reason why I picked that land. We're right next to the rainforest. There's nothing above us. The water that comes from a rainforest spring is what feeds. But also the name of the village is called Saranbuana, which means one of the translations is essence of the universe. And so I see us being the ripple effect from the top of the mountain down. So I see us being this opportunity to be a starting point, and water travels down, success can travel down the mountain, down, and we can start from that end. So it's definitely on my mind, and I walk around and I do see the upside down Roundup bottles on the other farmers and watching them handle it without any kind of protection, which always gets to me. But the way forward is to start to show some success. They start to show some profitability and success, and then showing them how they can do it and connecting them to the same people, which is very, very important. Yeah.
If you guys have advice, I would advise that we wait until the next thing. But if you have questions, I would open for 1 or 2 max, and then we get back to you guys if you have anything else. Wait, sorry.
Just curious. So, take this in the best way possible. I'm always skeptical of education on its own, right, as having impact. Because, like, for instance, permaculture, those concepts have been around a while. They have not scaled. And where they have scaled, there's not been a lot of action. And so I'm curious, and that's where, like, what has gone wrong in that effort that you could address in terms of the way you're thinking about education? Because there's probably just some sort of mixed paradigm in there, right, that hasn't had the success. And maybe it has to do that there hasn't been the opportunity to really work with the local cultures, or maybe education alone is not solving the right problem. Maybe it's a mix of education and something else. But I wonder if have you looked at sort of like why haven't past efforts worked as you've thought about how you might scale this up?
It's a really great question, and my brain will be working on that. I mean, there's 2 things I think of about that. One is talking to Shane McCarthy. He's part of the groups around. He's been working permaculture for many, many years, and he's noticed that when he first talked about permaculture, everyone looked at him like he was a crazy man and you're a hippie. And now he's finding that the demand to actually have training centers that can train 200 people in permaculture to get out to the masses, that's the problem they're having now. So I think permaculture has been around for a long time. It just took a while, and now people are starting to go, oh, permaculture, it's a thing, we need to look at it. So I think there's part of that. And the other thing is I have a systems brain, so I'm always trying to think of how can we not franchise, but how can we systemize this so it is palatable and can get out to the masses. But I am open to anyone's advice and thoughts on that, because I think that's the key. It is how can you make a McDonald's version so it gets out to the world just as successfully.
Maybe one last comment from the advisors, and then we go.
There's a couple of things that I really, really love. One, I love, just for somebody that doesn't know much about soil, I love that there's people dedicated to improving the soil. So the food that I eat and my kids eat and families and people I love have more goodness to them. I love that you were in an education course and were inspired to create this. And I think to the comment in the back around education, what you had on there and I wrote down was educate and inspire. And I think that is a key that we can help, again, crowdsource for you as well. I also love that you can't know, even if you franchise, it's a big situation, right? And I love that you started the Regenerative Indonesia Network to connect with like businesses around and create a map and partnerships and how those partnerships can grow. Back to your step 1 on how to scale. You've got most of your income coming from tours and courses. And so what I've put out to the group is, again, super simple. You don't need to know about soil. You don't need to know about Balinese farming. Is, what are some networks that you could be sharing on to promote your courses? There's, some social media. There might be some other networks. There would be some Google Maps. You've mentioned to me that you've got some testimonials now and how to escalate those, and how people from green school can help you do that. So I would say that that would be the one in a super easy, fast, we could do it today, quick win for you. The second would be your calendar of events. And so again, I would challenge, there's lots of people from different backgrounds and interests. And you had mentioned bringing kids up there, bringing a group there, bringing tourists up there. What would be some things that we would suggest populating on your calendar that we would join, or we would like to do? Because my guess is a very quick thing is, I could tell you I have a group of 8 that want to go tomorrow, and you would be able to scramble and have a wonderful experience for us and get some income straight away as you need to build your toilet block and some of the other things before you can scale to the next piece. So a couple of simple actions for us in the room that we can help you make that first step in scale.
Thank you. Definitely. Yes, if you want to come tomorrow, there's an eco lodge 1 kilometer away if you need to go.
All right, I think that's it for today, unless you guys have any other advice you would like to give.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hayley. Thank you so much to the advisors. Really appreciate everyone's time. So the next thing we're going to do is to break into 2 groups. If you're not that hungry and you can still hold for another 2 minutes, just that we can connect to Urban Compost over there, and we can connect to Bali Regenerative Farming here. What we're going to do is, if you feel like you can contribute to these organizations, if you feel like your professions, your work, your experience, business knowledge and experience can help these organizations, I would highly encourage you to go towards Urban Compost over there and Bali Regenerative Farming here, just that we can connect, we can exchange a few words here and there, and then we can break out, go for lunch, and go on with our lives. But at least we can talk a little bit together and perhaps offer a little bit of help to these organizations if you can. Yeah, if not, if you're just curious, just mingle around and we'll have a good time. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. Really appreciate it. And don't forget, every job is a climate job. So let's get your job on the positive side of things, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.